Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here with another Orns 10-minute take. This is on Watford 1, Leicester City 5. And really, I'm not going to take 10 minutes to talk about this game because the less said about this game, the better. Watford did take the lead in the 6th minute. João Pedro's strike diverted into the back of the net by Leicester City player Costagna, and that was 1-0 Watford. And Watford did push a little bit more in the next few minutes, but not good enough because Watford gave the game away. It's a familiar scenario we've seen in this miserable home campaign. Leicester City getting a goal through some sloppy errors and mistakes from Watford and their back line, and it was 1-1. And then a few minutes after that, the game completely turned in favor of Leicester City. It was a mistake by Kayembe, a poor pass that was intercepted by a Leicester player, and Ben Foster comes careening off his line to get to Jamie Vardy, who had the ball over Ben Foster and in the back of the Watford net. 2-1, and that was your game done and dusted there. Leicester added insult to injury early, just seconds into the second half, as Harvey Barnes made it 3-1. Barnes would score 2 goals, Vardy would score 2, and really that was that. Watford lose 5-1. The defensive frailties and just incompetence of this Watford team just laid bare once again before the fans at the Vic. And there were actually still plenty of empty seats in this one. They just want to get the Roy Hodgson era out of here, and it's still going to continue for at least one more week. In fact, Roy Hodgson technically does not step down until the end of June, which is going to be really difficult to stomach another month because his contract actually officially ends at the end of June. But he won't be around the place much because you know what? It will be Rob Edwards' turn to see if he can get a tune out of whomever is going to be in this Watford lineup for next season in the Championship. One of the things that Rob Edwards is going to have to look at is the attitude of these players who, I am told from some Watford fans, did not join the rest of their teammates on the pitch for the lap of dishonor at the end of the game. That's what usually happens at the Vic. You have players who all come out, all of them come out and clap off the fans. Now, some Watford fans have said that that did not happen today. Only a few of the Watford players would at least come out and clap off the fans, which is the minimum that they should have done. But the whole team should have been out there to do the same. And the fact that they didn't is a disgrace and emblematic of a very selfish group of players who just don't care about the fans. That's just a fact. They don't care about the fans, don't care about the club either. They just care about one thing, their wages. And that's exactly what they did. Those players that did not show up, if that's true that they didn't on the pitch for the lap of dishonor, those players need to clear off out of the Vic right now. Don't even show up again. You're not going to get to wear the nice home jersey for next season. Clear off and clear out. We don't want you. And if you don't care enough to come on the pitch and take accountability for your shambolic season, especially at the Vic, then you really don't need to be here at the Vic. You don't need to be anywhere near this club. You can go shove off as far as I'm concerned. And I think Rob Edwards, who was in attendance in the Graham Taylor stand in the director's box, would have taken notice of this, keen notice of what was going on there at the end of the game in the lap of dishonor. No surprise that Roy Hodgson didn't join them, because that's the other thing. Apparently, Roy Hodgson did not join the players who were out there to give the lap of honor, and at least, or I should say the lap of dishonor, and at least clap off the fans. Roy Hodgson had the excuse last week at Crystal Palace that the Watford fans were a bit too far away. Well, what is his excuse this week? Fans at the Vic for Watford a bit too far away, Roy? Can't get out of that one, can you? Well, Roy Hodgson will be getting out of that one with £5 million for his non-troubles. And it's the easiest £5 million he surely will have made on his way back to retirement, which is where he should have been in the first place. I wish him a happy retirement and wish him and his family very well. But he was a toxic presence at this club for the 5 months he was here, particularly from March onward. I think the moment that did it for me was when he subbed off Louser in the game against Arsenal at the Vic, and to a chorus of boos around the Vic. And then in the post-match press conference said, well, you know, it's a fan's favorite thing, you know, patronizing the fans like that and condescending to them. Louser may or may not be a fan favorite, but Louser is an industrious player who is a technician, who is careful, and who has got some skill about him and some heart about him. And you don't take off that kind of player to put on some defensive player. or defensive midfielder or defensive back. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. But this has been the legacy of Roy Hodgson. He always does things like this. He's such a negative football manager. And Watford need a fresh look, which is why Rob Edwards will be coming in, and not a moment too soon either, to clear up this mess. He's got a lot of work to do. I think it's fair to say. Only João Pedro today showed any aptitude, showed any skill and ability and heart and passion and fight for the cause. The rest of them were quite forgettable and anonymous for the most part. And in this one, there was only one player who showed up as a leader, and that was João Pedro, who really did take to the challenge. And he's someone that I think Rob Edwards knows that he can depend on and rely on. And I think he should be given some kind of leadership status should João Pedro next season. Why not make him the captain next season? Could you really go wrong with that? I mean, yes, he's only 20 years old or so, but so what? I mean, I think he's shown a lot more leadership than a lot of other players have this season. And Sissoko, has leadership, but we need a new direction. And I think João Pedro is the man to provide it. Why not make a statement by putting him as your captain for next season? Could you really go wrong in putting João Pedro in as your captain? I don't think so. And if Hassan Kamara wants to come back next season, why not put him in there? One of those two should be captain next season. Apparently, Watford have named Hassan Kamara the player of the season, well deserved. I know people will say that Emmanuel Dennis should have got it, but I don't think he should have, because Emmanuel Dennis took the second half of the season off in large measure. He was non-existent on the pitch for many games in the second half. Sure, he scored a goal or two, once against Brentford, once against Aston Villa, but he had done absolutely nothing the second half of the season. He's been a very selfish footballer, and he thinks he's better than he actually is. So for me, it was an easy decision for Watford Football Club to name Hassan Kamara as the player of the season. I don't think there's any surprise there. He was my choice for player of the season. And if that is correct, that is how he was named, then congratulations to him, because he did care. He did put in a shift. He did play well. Sure, he made a mistake or two here and there, but still, I think he brought a sense of energy and life to this team and some commitment and belief into it as well, and did his job very well on the field when he was called upon to do so at left back. I think he more than exemplified the kind of skill and ability and courage and passion that this Watford side did not have throughout the entire season. And it makes you wonder if we'd had 5 or 6 more Hassan Kamaras on the team, where we might be at this point. But it's all academic now because it's championship football for us. And that work really starts now. Forget the Chelsea game. It's going to be a day out for the few that managed to get to Stamford Bridge. And by the way, I doubt that Chelsea will be letting any Watford fans in there next week because of all the sanctions and all the rest. But look, the fact of the matter is that Watford next week are just going to be playing out the string. I say, bring on academy players next week. You know you're down. We know where we are. Let the academy players get on the pitch next week against this Chelsea side. Chelsea got nothing to play for either, really. I mean, they're going to be in the Champions League next season. Why not put Watford academy players out there, at least a couple of them, a few of them, show what they can do? Let Rob Edwards, who's surely going to be attending at the Bridge next week, let him see what they can do, what they're about. And if you want to rebuild, the rebuilding starts now. So you may as well put Shaq Ford out there if he's not injured. You may as well put, or if he's recovering from injury, if he's successfully recovered, or you may as well put Quadwo Bar on the pitch. What's wrong with that? Put them on the pitch. Let us all see what they can do. Let us see what they can do. They got nothing to lose. That's what I say. But we'll see what Roy Hodgson says in his last game in charge at Watford. It cannot come soon enough. And by the way, as far as Rob Edwards is concerned, Rob Edwards must be given the time and the space to make the decisions about the players, the player personnel, and about who is going to be starting these games next season, who's going to be coming off the bench next season. All those things must be entrusted to Rob Edwards without any interference from the Watford board or from the owner. If you're bringing in Rob Edwards in here off the back of him winning a championship in League Two to promote Forest Green Rovers, then you've got to let him have the room, the time, the space, and the latitude over player personnel, have a say over player personnel, and all the rest of it. Who's going to start? who's going to play, who's not going to play, who's going to come off the bench. You have to let that come to Rob Edwards to do. The man obviously knows a thing or two about what he's doing. He's just come off of getting a team a championship in League Two. That alone should be enough for Gino and co to say, we're going to step back here and let this football man start ruling the roost. We'll chip in and we'll talk about money, but as far as the footballing decisions, we're going to leave them to Rob Edwards. That is what I would like to see this Watford board do, because if they don't do that, it will show that they've still not learned any more lessons. And of course, we already know that they haven't learned any previously. This has been the Orns 10-minute take.